Hi everyone, welcome back again. I'm doing, you guessed it, another gouache drawing today. I've just been on a roll lately. I've really felt inspired, And today is kind of an adventure in watercolor paper stretching, as it were. Sorry, my voice is a little messed up. My throat's a little out of it right now. Anyways, today I'm going to be drawing, I guess I'll leave it up to you or whatever, but I know what it is for me. Something that I see quite often, I suppose, and I wanted to try to interpret that. It's a bit of a gloomy piece. As I was saying earlier, though, this is a kind of an adventure in watercolor paper stretching. I was trying to use Bristol paper for this gouache painting, because I've been watching a lot of Alex Ross videos lately, and I've been very inspired by the work that he does. I mean, the guy's got such a nice style. It feels very classical, yet it's kind of timeless in a way. If you haven't seen his work, Alex Ross is mostly known for doing work on DC and Marvel comic books. He has like a very particular style. He did Kingdom Come, the DC story, and he did, Marvels, I believe it's called, which was like Marvel stories, just kind of told the history of the Marvel Universe. Anyways, I'm not here to talk about comic books, really. I'm here to talk about his art. He has a very nice style. He has a great understanding of form and anatomy, and he's got a lot of personality in the way he draws. It feels like something you'd see in like a soldier memorial or something. That may sound strange, but it just has like a very professional look. I think I've probably said that a couple times now, but I don't know how else to describe it. Anyways, though, this has got nothing to do with that. This is nowhere in league with the stuff that he does. Now, this piece is kind of something I wanted to show you as an example of what happens when you don't do your prep properly. This is the second time I've stretched this piece of paper at this point, and it is, I think I stretched this thing twice total. I may have done it once more off camera, I don't remember. I think it was just twice, but it's because I didn't stretch it properly the first time, or rather, because I was impatient. See, I just kind of quickly threw the tape on there that I use, which is like a water-activated gum tape. I believe that's what it's called. I'll try to put some in the description. I'm going to write that down. Gum tape. Anyways, I was being quick, and so I put it on there, and I didn't let it dry all the way, and I should have put another layer of tape on there, but I didn't. And in fact, you're supposed to staple these when you're putting it down, but I didn't do that either. I didn't end up stapling it in the long run either, and it was fine, but it's something I wish I would have done. My only problem with stapling it really is that like you end up ruining whatever surface you're working on, like your board or whatever. This was just a piece of like plywood that I've had left over for a while now that I finally got to put to use. I believe it used to be a drawer, like a cabinet door, Anyways though, let me give you some quick advice on how to properly set up paper for this type of stuff. First off, if you're using Bristol paper, which is very smooth paper, I don't think you're actually supposed to soak it in water beforehand. I could be wrong, and I'm not an authority on this, so maybe I just haven't found it yet. But I found that when I soaked it in water, it removed that smooth surface that it had, and it made it a little more porous, which I'd say kind of did work to my advantage in some ways. I think I got a bit of a fuzzier look out of it, which was nice, kind of achieving that effect I guess I was going for, albeit unintentionally. But I don't think that Bristol is supposed to be soaked in water, so I don't know if I would use that at all. Probably use something more like a hot press watercolor paper for this if I'm going to be stretching, paper again for a gouache painting like this, because then you get the smooth finish, which is what I'm looking for. As much as I like that fuzzy look, it is unintentional. That's probably step one. Step two, make sure you're using staples in conjunction with your tape. You don't have to use staples. I didn't use it on this and it turned out fine. But But the way that I did it was I used the gum tape first, and then after it was on and it had dried a little bit, I went over the gum tape with some regular masking tape, like just general use blue masking tape you use for like painting a house or something. And that worked fine. I let it dry all the way before I started doing stuff on it though. And I would recommend you do that as well, because at that point, your paper is stretched out as far as it possibly can be. I forgot step one. Step one, you want to take your paper and soak it in water for a little while. I'm an idiot. I forgot about that. I'm not an idiot. I shouldn't say that. But you want to let your paper sit in the water for about 5 minutes, right? And I'm sure there's a way to do it with bristle paper where you're not going to mess it up, but I have not found it yet. But you're going to let it sit for about 5 minutes, and then you're going to want to do all the tape down and whatnot, and before you put it on the board, you want to damp it off a little bit, yada yada. Once it's dry, once you got your tape on there, that dries, you should be good to go. And then, before you take any of the tape off, make sure that it is dry. And I would give it like a full overnight to dry, because I pulled this one off there, and I thought it was dry. It felt dry on the surface, but there's still a little bit of wetness underneath the paper. So let it sit for a little while, maybe like 24 hours or something before pulling it off. That's my advice, at least. It probably differs based on humidity or whatever in your region, but that's my advice. Something I was kind of happy about with this, and goes for this attempt, was I got to use my dip pen for a little while. This is not dip pen, fountain pen. This is one of 2 fountain pens I own. The other one was from Staples, and I think it cost me like $5. It's not a great fountain pen. I don't use it. I probably should just get rid of it, honestly, but I have this thing of hanging on to things, I guess, that I need to get over. But this is the Moon Man, something else. Also not an extremely expensive fountain pen, but one that I really, really like. As someone that doesn't really want to get into like the fancy fountain pens, someone who doesn't really want to spend like $200 on a fountain pen, I think that this is great. It looks pretty. I mean, you got like a clear reservoir there you can put your ink in, and it writes okay. It's not 100% smooth, but it's as good as I care for it to be. Sometimes I draw stuff with it, but not often. But I got to do it today in an attempt to kind of give an illustrated look. I guess the idea I was going for is that inside it was a little fuzzy, but outside everything was a little more clear. The trees were a little more outlined and rigid. They had more form to them. But what ended up happening is I ended up getting a look that I just wasn't too terribly impressed with. So, needless to say, I didn't keep up with it for very long. In fact, I got rid of this pretty quick. Lesson learned. I'm not too worried about it. It was something that I did that I was able to take a step back from. I think I got to a certain point where I had finished the branches, and I kind of just looked at it from a distance and thought about it, went away, got some coffee, did whatever else the heck I did, came back after a little while and decided that I wasn't happy with it. And so I changed it. I decided I was going to start over again, and that I was going to begin anew, as it were. I mostly just covered over the outside, which another lesson learned is that you can't just infinitely cover things with gouache. I used a lot of white gouache trying to cover up this outside area here, to try to cover up the sky where all the branches were. And while I think it looks fine on the original, and you can't tell unless you're looking like super close, which I don't think anyone will do. I probably will. I think I'm the only one that'll notice. But if you don't look close, you really can't tell, because it ended up getting covered over again. I forgot to record me covering over it again as well, but I don't think it was that important. It was just kind of putting white on top of it, or like this light purpley kind of color. And so it wasn't that important. Without even realizing it, I guess I kind of made a monochromatic painting as well. which I guess wasn't really intentional, but when I was mixing them, it just kind of worked out that way. It turned out I only really used like an off purple and black and white, and that was it. I got to redo the branches outside, and I was much happier with how they turned out this time. They were more closer to what I was intending. I think my problem was the first time I did it, I used gouache that was a little too thinned down. So instead of getting solids, I was getting something more akin to like a watercolor, which was definitely not what I wanted. That's the nice thing about gouache. It's definitely better suited for something along these lines. It's very good for like pop art. It's one of its more popular uses. Is the colors are very solid. If you mix your gouache evenly and you're using consistent colors and whatnot, then you'll get very bright, poppy looks to things, because things will end up being just like singular colors. And I like that a lot. I like when people can do drawings, in particular like concept art and whatnot, where things are just basic blocky values. I like detail. I like fine detail, but I mean, the more you break something down, the more you realize everything is just shapes, essentially. And this is, and I guess there's certain pieces of concept art that just kind of have that not jagged, but like geometric style to it that I like very much. You can see here, though, I'm really darkening a lot of those values, trying to balance things a little bit more, because originally I wanted it to be very high contrast, but I didn't want your attention to be drawn away from the window too much, because that's where you were supposed to be looking, or at least it's where I wanted your eye to go first. So I ended up kind of balancing them again, because I feel like it ended up just a little too washed out. Like there wasn't enough contrast among these things. I wanted to kind of give that effect, not necessarily of like daytime. I guess it could be daytime with how bright it is, but if you guys ever woken up and it's so bright outside that you can't tell if it's morning or not, but you realize it's just very bright night outside, I guess I kind of wanted to go for something like that. Alternatively, it could just be like a gray day or a bright morning, I've had mornings like that too. Man, is there any feeling greater than like an overcast morning? Particularly an overcast morning that you just get to spend at home. Just sit at home and soak it all up, I guess. Read a book, drink some tea. I feel like I don't drink very much tea unless it is rainy outside. There's something about rainy weather where it just like draws me to it. I don't think that's an uncommon thing. I'm pretty sure that's just something that a lot of people enjoy. But I really don't drink a lot of tea unless it's like sleepy time tea, or unless it's raining outside. I don't know. I don't know what it is. Anyways, though, I think that's all I really had to say today. So, as always, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm pretty happy with this piece. I hope you guys liked it too. Let me know if you guys are sick of gouache yet or not. I'm not. I'm loving it. But, I'm not everyone, so any input would be appreciated. But as always, guys, thank you. And you have yourselves a good day. Or night. Or... No, I guess those are the only two times. I guess there's like an in-between time. There's like morning, like sunrise and sunset, I guess. Do those count as night or day? I guess they're right there in the middle. So I have a good, dusk or twilight, I guess, too. Whatever. I'm gonna get out of your hair. Love you guys. Goodbye. Until next time.